Welcome to Reality Dread, the home of true horror stories.
I first noticed him on Wednesday. Just an ordinary day, nothing out of the ordinary. I was getting off the subway at 6:20 p.m. The crowd was rushing about. I was riding the escalator and looking down at my phone. I glanced up briefly and saw him. A man was standing by a pillar on the platform. A dark blue jacket, a baseball cap, a gray visor. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking toward the tunnel where the train was supposed to come from. But something made me hold my gaze for a couple of seconds. His shoulders. He was standing unnaturally straight. I looked away. I stepped out onto the street. I forgot about it. On Friday, I was heading home from work again. I got off the train and took the escalator. Same station, same 6:20 p.m. And there he was, standing by the same pillar, same blue jacket, same baseball cap with a gray brim. I froze for a second. I thought, what a coincidence. Lots of people wear blue jackets. Lots of people wear caps. I headed for the exit, but once I was outside, I turned around. Through the glass doors of the station lobby, I saw him. He was standing there, looking at me. Through the crowd, through the glass, for 5 seconds. Then he turned around and walked back into the subway. I felt uneasy, but I convinced myself it was just my imagination. He was looking the other way, or not at me. I didn't work on Saturday. I met up with a friend downtown. We went into a cafe and ordered coffee. We sat by the window. I chatted and looked around. And then I saw him. Across the street. A blue jacket. A baseball cap with a gray brim. He was standing by the window of a grocery store, reading something on a price tag. Or maybe he was just pretending to read. I didn't tell my friend. I thought to myself, I must be going crazy. It's a big city. It's possible to run into the same person by chance. It's a real possibility. We finished our coffee and left. I didn't see him again that evening. But on Monday, I decided to check. I usually get off the subway at 6:20 p.m. On Monday, I deliberately lingered on the platform. I told myself, if he's there, it's no coincidence. He was there. Same posture, same stance. Now he wasn't looking down the tunnel, he was looking at the escalator, at the spot where I was supposed to appear. I didn't head for the exit. I sat down on a bench in the middle of the hall. I took out my phone and turned on the camera. I started filming him through the lens, pretending to look at the screen. He stood there for 3 minutes. He didn't move. Then he turned his head and looked straight into the camera. That is, at me. I lowered my phone. He smiled. Not widely, just the corner of his mouth, briefly, as if he knew I was filming him, as if he'd been waiting for it. I stood up and walked briskly toward the exit. I didn't look back. I went out onto the street. I walked into the first pharmacy I came across. I stood there for 10 minutes, looking at vitamins I didn't need. When I came out, he was gone. I drove home. All week long, I kept changing my route. I'd get off at the station earlier or later. I'd take a detour involving 3 transfers. I figured, if he's following me, he can't be everywhere. On Thursday, I got off at a different station, a 20-minute walk from home. I walked along the riverfront. There weren't many people there. A narrow sidewalk, the river, some bushes. 5 minutes later, I heard footsteps behind me. Not fast, calm. Just like mine, the rhythm of the footsteps matched mine. I picked up my pace. The footsteps picked up their pace. I crossed to the other side of the street. So did the footsteps. I stopped. I spun around abruptly. 30 meters away stood a man in a blue jacket and a baseball cap. The brim was gray. He wasn't hiding. He was just looking at me. "What do you want?" I shouted. He didn't answer.
He just stood there. Then he slowly took a phone out of his jacket pocket. He raised it. He pointed it at me. He was filming me. I didn't run, because it's easier to catch someone who's running. I walked quickly forward. I turned into the passageway between the buildings. I ran through the courtyards. I came out onto my street from the other side. I froze at the building entrance. I looked around. No one was there. I went inside. I closed the door. Once inside the apartment, I sat down on the floor in the hallway. My heart was pounding. I didn't turn on the light. An hour later, I peeked out the window. A man was sitting on the bench across from the building entrance. He was wearing a blue jacket and a baseball cap with a gray brim. He was sitting there, staring straight at my windows. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? Say, "A man in a cap is following me. He's not doing anything. He's just watching." They would have replied, "Did he threaten you? Did he attack you?" No? Goodbye. He sat there for 2 hours. Then he got up and left. The next day, I drove to work again. The usual route, the usual time. The train car was crowded. I was standing by the door, staring into the darkness of the tunnel. At one of the stops, the door opened. Someone got on. I didn't turn around, but I caught a scent. Tobacco, cheap tobacco. And something metallic, too, like the smell of coins. The man stood next to me, side by side. I looked straight ahead. I knew it was him. I didn't look at him. I looked at my reflection in the glass of the door. He was looking too, into the glass, at me, expressionless, the way you look at a wall. We passed 3 stations. He didn't get off. I didn't get off either. We both knew I was going further. At the 4th station, I spun around abruptly and headed for the exit, pushing people aside. I didn't look back. I ran out onto the platform. The doors closed. The train pulled away. He stayed inside. I exhaled. I thought, that's it. I've lost him. I got off the subway. I walked. After 2 blocks, I turned into the courtyards. I saw a playground. It was empty. And there was a bench. A baseball cap was lying on the bench. It was gray, with a gray brim. I stopped. I looked around. No one was there. I walked closer. There was no dust on the baseball cap, no dew. It was lying on the bench as if someone had just taken it off and set it down. I didn't pick it up. I walked away, a different way, through 3 courtyards, through an archway. I entered the building through the back entrance. At home, I locked the door with all the locks. I bolted it. I'd never done that before. I didn't sleep all night. I sat in the dark in the entryway, staring at the door. No one came. The next morning, I looked out the window. The bench by the entrance was empty. I left for work. A baseball cap was lying on the doormat at the entrance to the building. It was gray. The very same one. I stepped over it. I went to work. I looked back after 100 meters. A man in a blue jacket was sitting on a bench, no cap. He was looking at me. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he wants. I don't know why he keeps leaving his caps for me. I didn't call the police, because he didn't do anything. He was just following me, just watching, just sitting there. That doesn't break the law.
And today I was riding the subway again. I was standing by the handrail, reading the news on my phone. Someone touched my shoulder. I looked up. A man in a blue jacket was standing next to me. No cap. He was holding out his phone to me. The camera was on. I saw my face in the lens. Frightened. Tired. "Smile," he said. I got off at the next station. He didn't follow me.
But that evening, when I got home, there was a new baseball cap lying on the doormat. White, with a blue brim, and a note. It said, "You look good when you're not smiling." I closed the door. 5 minutes later, the doorbell rang again. I didn't answer it. A minute later, I got a text message from an unknown number. "I'm still here."